Hello and welcome to Partyline Chat. My name is Michael Finney. We are joined by a huge cast of characters from all over the BSV Bitcoin development world. Very happy to have people on. Will you introduce yourself in any order? Feel free.
I'm Bryant, also Mr. Baggyhead on Twitter.
I'm Dane, Dane M. Little on Twitter.
I'm Henry, UIT Cal on Twitter.
I'm Harry. I'm number 1 on Twitch.
How do you follow after that? I'm Brenton, Brent Gunning on Twitter.
I'm Alex. I'm Patton, 2 underscores on Twitter.
Hey, Tim here. Nurse here on Twitter.
Who else we got? Anybody? I think that's everybody. Unless somebody pops in, we've got a couple more.
I'm user 112 on Twitch. I feel bad now.
Today we're talking Bitcoin development, specifically BSV. I want to make sure to say that, this was not always intended to be BSV exclusive. I have reached out to other development people outside of BSV because I do believe, that there are interesting things happening elsewhere. However, I do really like the web integration and everything that's happening on BSV. Personally, obviously, it's an attractive community to me. Let's get started. How was Christmas for everybody?
Fantastic. It was awesome. Didn't let 2020 stop from having a good time. So.
Critical.
A lot of food. Yeah, food and family, a few drinks, sleep.
Probably the most normal. Yeah, probably the most normal day of the year for me.
Yeah.
So, where does everybody want to start with Bitcoin development? Let's look back at what has occurred this year, and then maybe we will move forward. So what do you think are the most important things that have transpired this year in BSV? Any thoughts? Anybody can speak up. This is an open forum.
Twitch chat.
I think Twitch chat was cool. I think in terms of like the chain, at the beginning of the year, they opened up script. So that kind of gave a lot of people the ability to experiment with, different kind of scripts. And I think that was one of the biggest things that happened all year,
I think script is like I agree, it's the biggest thing. At the same time, it's been sort of severely underutilized because wallets don't really support it yet. Like there's still like this vestigial relic of, the old Bitcoin world where you could only make 5 types of transactions, but they just allow large op returns now. So, but in terms of future implications, that's really huge. The announcement on Christmas of the ancestor limit going away, that's going to enable a lot of incredible things that couldn't happen before. Especially just things like twitching or like peer game or whatever. Like if you're just ripping it like a bunch of likes or a bunch of games or something, you don't have to worry about like running out of steam. And
can you explain like on 5 the pro and con, I guess, of removing the ancestor limit?
Okay. There's no con, it's only pro. Like there's no really good reason to not allow long chains, except perhaps if someone is trying to like invalidate a really long chain by double spending, that could be a bit messy, especially on like larger blocks. But for the most part, if you're assuming zero conf works, which if you're using most apps you are, well, yeah, not really a downside in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. The the mempool limit, one of the things about it is for payments, there was workarounds. You could split your BSV up into different outputs. But for tokens, and especially non-fungible tokens, sometimes there weren't even options for trying to use them more than 25 times in a 10-minute period. So the way I see this is really just unlocking tons and tons of use cases for a lot of games, social media, anything where you're updating data over time. That's a big win for the mempool limit.
If you guys keep talking about games, I'm thinking in my head of just like Super Mario Brothers, where you have a character running in one direction across the screen, and he's bopping on mushrooms and he's knocking coins up. Are you telling me that this allows that data to get pushed into the chain at real time? Is that the kind of data speed and amount that you're talking about?
I do think that particularly Brent and Run have this is maybe particularly valuable for what they're trying to do over there.
Yeah, it depends on your architecture and how you've built your tokens. For sure, Run is definitely impacted by this. And we had some ideas for workarounds for this that maybe, if the mempool limit wasn't raised, we could explore, but they all came with trade-offs. And so really what this lets you do is build with Run where your tokens, your data, you don't have to think about it. You can just use it. But honestly, it's good for all developers. Splitting your tokens or splitting your BSV was just as painful as trying to develop a workaround in Run too.
I mean, one thing I could sort of explain from the perspective of, like, say, wallets is when someone onboards to a wallet, they might throw one giant transaction in of, when I say giant, let's say it's like 5 BSV. And then the question is, like, how do we split that? What is the optimal ratio? And you don't know if that user is going to primarily just hold their coins and send one transaction a month and just use it as cold storage, in which case you shouldn't split at all. Or if they're going to go and make, 200 likes on Twitch a day, play like 1,000 games of peer game, go and watch some Streamanity, right? Because as soon as that happens, Streamanity is like a mid-level purchase, and then peer game is like a small purchase, and then Twitch is like a tiny purchase. And so, like, having to split that up into some kind of ratio of UTXOs requires you to basically read the user's mind, which is not really possible. So it results in a subpar UX for everyone. So that's going away because we can split on demand now. We don't care. There's no limit. Well, I mean, soon it's coming up, but
sure.
Yeah.
So where is there like a threshold there? So I'm looking at like a League of Legends tournament where, not that game specifically, but if the scoring of a video game is being converted into tokens, is there like a limit to how many you can throw up there now?
Not when not after 1.0.7 is released. Like there's a 1,000 limit, but it's arbitrary, as in they're just doing it out of caution. Right. But what happens is when they take that 1,000 spend limit away, which is already what like what is that 50 times more than the current limit or something? I don't know. That's 200 times more.
Current limit is 5, right?
No, 25. 25. Yeah.
Oh.
200. Isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know. I guess we should. If we could have gotten
who
was that Shatters or whatever, we could have had him on.
It's 40 times. 40 so yeah, so it's like already really big, but once they take that limit away, the thing is, like, it'll actually be better performance because they showed the rights to be like basically like linear performance, right? But every time it does it, it has to check the chain of spends. So if you stop it from even having to check the chain of spends to count to see if it's hit 1,000 yet, it should actually be even more performant when the limit goes away.
because the processing has been up to be able to handle the throughput, I would assume.
Well, the processing has gone from being quadratic to like linear, as in you add one transaction and you get one transaction of burden instead of like a lot of burden. Like instead of it compounding, it's just addition, right?
Okay.
And because you don't, like, if you got rid of the limit entirely, which is the plan, you don't even have to check that chain of transactions to see if it's hit the limit. So you should have less computation to do on that chain of transactions. So you should have a slight performance increase when you fully take away the limit. So then there shouldn't be one. There shouldn't be like a ceiling.
Very good. So we've got Attila came in here. We got Brandon in here. I'd like to hear from those guys. Obviously, you know, everybody's kind of paying attention to what Handcash has been doing. And I think that, you know, he's particularly close to that conversation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what has been launched recently? I know you wanted to talk about the cloud a little bit.
Hey, how's it going? I just joined in. I didn't realize I needed to join the lobby.
Yep.
Yeah, so I work on the cloud team at Handcash, and so you know we just launched Connect, and I'm not sure what to say about it. The migration's gone really well. You know, it took us a long time, but you know we wanted to make sure that you know there are no holes and there are no issues in that. So that's happy with that. Yeah. What else would you like to know?
Well, I would say, you know, maybe these guys have particular questions for you as they are developers in the space and they might want to be able to integrate with what Handcash is doing. Anyone?
Yeah, definitely. So, Handcash Connect is, I think this is important. It's a high level abstraction of Bitcoin. So we're really, you know, targeting people and developers and companies that want to integrate nano payments easiest possible way without knowing too much about Bitcoin or, you know, investing a lot of resources into that. So that's really exciting because I think there's a lot of people on the edges right now that, you know, want to get into Bitcoin, want to use nano payments in their app. And I think Connect is the easiest tool to use to, you know, to have a proof of concept in a day. So that's kind of the exciting part.
Any additional thoughts on that from anyone else? Anyone looking to?
Well, over the past few weeks, I've been working on integrating Handcash into Twetch. The couple nice things I like about what it's going to offer is it's actually a wallet that doesn't require an iframe, so you don't have to. Because it's cloud-based, you don't have to like disable your cross-site tracking just to use a wallet on the web, which is pretty attractive for onboarding.
For sure,
that's been a huge pain for Twetch, especially for people that aren't super into cryptocurrencies. They just want to try out this thing, and then they get confused that they need to like do all this other work just to try it out. So I think the experience of just downloading an app and, you know, just clicking Twetch is going to be really great. We saw that a little bit with Relay, where you could just when they finally got on the App Store. That was huge for us because I could just tell people download Relay, click Twetch, and I think Handcash is going to have a very similar experience to that. Plus, you're not going to need to disable cross-site tracking if you want to use it on your your web browser. So really looking forward to that in terms of onboarding.
Right. And that's a huge thing. And I think any, you know, commercial product really, you can't be requesting users to go in and disable settings. Like it's just not going to work. I don't think. But yeah, the being cloud based has a lot of advantages in that we can perform updates really fast and iterate really fast. Where we're always monitoring our speeds of transaction signing and pretty much all functions, and because everything's cloud based, we have that info and we can constantly iterate and improve. So I think you're going to see just the overall performance of Connect improve over time.
Hey, it's Attila here. Thanks for having me, everyone. Just to add my thoughts as a user of Handcash from the wallet side, it's just I think we got to go back to first principles when it comes to the user. Like developer tools are very important. That's going to drive the apps and the utility. But going back to first principles, I really love about Handcash of treating the user, like protecting them, treating the user like their experience really matters. I think a lot of wallets have been really complicated over the years. Many of us are really comfortable with that, but that's been overlooked is the usability. And I have no problems recommending Handcash over the holidays here to my family and others. They have various wallets, but now I'm just, it's just really nice to be able to tell someone like a friend of the family, hey, go to Handcash and set up and send me your username, and I'll send you a little present. And that's just really comforting to be able to have that base where we can rely on this and not worry about the person losing their seed phrase and losing their investment or really being worried about getting hacked. So I just want to say I'm really excited about that. I think there's room for multiple models in this space. And this is something that we just didn't have before. So I'm really excited that we have this, easier onboarding. So that's wicked. And the developer experience looks like, similarly simplified.
Harry, I want to ask you a question real quick before these guys keep going. When Relay went live, and did you see an uptick in signups to Twitch because of that?
We saw maybe not an uptick, but there was a lot less failures.
Right. Maybe onboarding becomes simplified.
I couldn't even imagine how many people were interested in Twitch and fell through because of problems around wallets. They get confused that we finally convert them, and then they are like, "Oh, I got to sign up on a different website." It's really confusing. So I think it was just like a higher percent of people that, and I don't have the numbers, but that's what it felt like, of people that were successfully able to get into Twitch that were interested.
And I think that
when they launched on the App Store, that was
right, not
basically the best onboarding. Not test flight. That was too much for most people.
So I think that's a really, like, Twitch, I would say, is the flagship of users on BSV, right? It's got probably the most active user community who are checking in and participating. I'm not familiar with anything else that's driving as much traffic and interactions in the same way as that. So I think that you guys testing that out and being able to, make it seamless and also illustrate how other projects can do this as well is very valuable.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we really try to focus on the user experience first and foremost, and then work it backwards to Bitcoin. We'll like try to not necessarily fake it, but the user experience comes first before all the cool Bitcoin stuff in my eyes and Billy's eyes, the designer. So yeah, that's why Handcash will be we're looking forward to it. Now, I will say there are trade-offs to how they've done it, but it's a different model. Like the biggest one I can think of is instead of leveraging all these users' computational power, like in the browsers, then it's all in the cloud, right? So that's going to be slightly more expensive for Handcash to run. But at the same time, they can offer this amazing user experience where you don't have to like worry about a seed phrase. You can just download and go. So there's trade-offs, but it's going to be fun to experiment with it.
Yeah, definitely. And we're set up in a way to scale really well. We're using Amazon, and we can scale horizontally. Like Handcash gets 100,000 users. We just it's just as easy to spin up more instances and scale that way. So I don't think it's too much of a burden of moving the signing into the cloud. I actually think it's a benefit because we can actually optimize things in a more specific way.
Very good. Attila, do you want to talk a little bit about Bitcoin files or anything else that you are working on presently?
For sure. Well, Bitcoin files went through a big redesign and relaunch. So thanks to Harry and Billy and others for the work on that. We see Bitcoin files as a gateway, as an audit trail to the blockchain, as a way to for developers to treat the blockchain as a immutable data storage system. We're really excited about like the extra capabilities that haven't existed before in blockchains. We're really pushing to treat data and information on the blockchain as like property that you own and you monetize, and that you can remix with think memes. And so I think we're really excited about that kind of utilization of the blockchain and evolving the platform to be more data oriented instead of payments oriented, how it's been before. That's really exciting to me, and I think we have a shot at really moving everyone in BSV and Bitcoin to this way of thinking. There's going to be different ways of looking at the blockchain, and Bitcoin files is just an easy API to upload files to the blockchain, query data, and just generally treat it as a content delivery network. With Matter Cloud, we have our API service that we index the blockchain and provide global access to developers that need to do broadcasting or looking up address UTXOs. So that's important to us to be able to index and search the blockchain. It's a big task. It's not too big right now, but it will continue to get to be a larger operation as you get billions and eventually hundreds of billions of transactions and making sense of them. So I'm really excited actually about that part where we're going to be able to build better search tools and better access, but also building out a platform that allows any developer to quickly connect and own their application data. So we talk about the users owning their data, yet a lot of applications, they don't give all the data. And that could be like the SPV proofs are not synced to the clients or the intermediaries. And it could be the chain of digital signatures. So I think that's really important in Bitcoin, that developers and app developers, they really they have in a way their data is their own digital gold. It's their most valuable asset. So that's what I'm focused on, thinking about how to deliver that to really empower developers to take control and minimize the dependency on like this whole, you need a big monolithic full node and you need to index everything. I'm kind of trying to move us away from that On the other hand, I'm now, just to officially announce to everyone, I'm a small blocker. I believe that
Oh
we should
my
keep
God.
Bitcoin under 10. I believe we should keep Bitcoin under 10 gigabytes blocks every 10 minutes. I believe we
This is
should
heresy.
try to hold that line for a couple years. So I just want to make that clear that I'm a new small blocker at 10 gigabytes.
That's a huge
Right.
block according to other
Excommunicated.
small blockers. Let's take just a moment. I want to introduce David Case. He is developing crypto fights. What crypto? Am I saying that right? Do you want to unmute your mic? Let's get a mic check from you. Hey, bud, how's it going?
It's going well.
Let me turn you up a little bit. And obviously, let's talk about what you're working on and how it integrates with some of the other things on BSV that these guys are working on. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm right now in the process of reworking and getting rid of my payment channel solution due to the raised ancestor limit. So I'm really excited about that. And we're getting really close to having crypto fights released. So I don't know who all is here. I mean, I heard Attila. I see Brenton's here. Dean.
Great cast. Great group of people.
Yeah.
Very happy to have
This
this.
is cool.
I am here.
I also
Greetings.
am here. Yo. Is
Howdy.
Phil, are you live? Are you in
I
here?
am here.
Yo, let me turn your mic up. You're quiet. Glad you came in. Go ahead and keep going, David. Sorry.
Oh, I'm feeling prepared. So we're going to be getting crypto fights to beta any day now, but I've been saying that for a couple weeks.
Mhm.
But that ancestor limit really makes things so much easier for me, and I'm really happy to see that. And I hope that right now we're using. Actually, does anyone know how soon that's going to be available and like when people are going to start implementing it? Attila, do you know?
January, apparently.
Yeah, in the new year, and we'll test it out as soon as it's available and deploy it.
Cool. So the other thing we've been working on is kind of getting it's a run based kind of a stable coin. It's not really a public stable coin. It's kind of limited to our system, but to do our whole accounting system on chain, which is and we've got that tied in with a KYC AML provider, and so it's kind of cool to be able to just kind of get the whole business, like everything is on chain. That there isn't any real off chain database. I mean, we've got lots of caches and things like that, but it just makes like thinking of accounting within the business and stuff so much easier.
I'd like to hear a little bit because you are using Run, and you and I have met up and we've talked, and I did talk with Brent, at length, I would say, about Run, and have even been able to dabble with that. But I'd love to hear you guys talk together for everybody here, just generally about how Crypto Fights utilizes Run, and maybe just some of the difficulties or the great advances that have been realized.
Yeah.
Oh, God. David, do you want to go?
I guess I can start off kind of how we use it, and then, actually, maybe I guess if you want to start with any sort of background that we need, and then I'll go.
Well,
into,
he's
like, how
talked a
we're
little
using
bit
it.
about the background.
Okay,
stuff,
so all right. Well, then how we're using it is within our system. At the basic level, all your weapons and your player are actual tokens that you own. So we have rules implemented for when you build a fighter in Crypto Fights, you've got a certain amount of points you can allocate to different properties, their strength, their dexterity, and their intelligence. And then those actually kind of get baked into the token that you own. And as you play through the games, you earn more experience points, which you have rules within those fighters that said, okay, once I reach a certain amount of experience points, that allows me to unlock. I get to choose one of these skills to unlock. And then now you have that skill. And then you kind of keep leveling up this fighter. And at the same time, it's all entirely your property, and as long as you're following the rules that are deployed on chain, that's yours forever. There's nothing we're doing in between that's changing that. And then in the same way, as you win battles, weapons are dropped that way, which are also your own tokens. Weapons are a lot more limited. They're not really upgradable, but they are fully tradable. And those will all have different rarity, and they will have different or they do have different rarity and different strengths and weaknesses against different types of defense. It's very Dungeons and Dragons based system. But so the weapons basically have stored in them, like, this is my configuration, and that just is that forever. And you can trade those to other people, but the configuration of that weapon never changes. And so those are kind of like the easy approach of tokens and what you can do with Run. But what we've taken it even further is when you enter a battle in Crypto Fights, that is actually a jig as well, a run jig, that has all the rules of how the battle plays out. And so as that marches on, it gets to a point where one of the opponents is dead, and then it goes through the programmed release cycle for what kind of weapon it's going to spit out, and it will then grant XP to the fighter that the fighter can then apply to update itself to unlock those different skills and level up. So it's kind of, the whole system is all tied together, and it's all jigs.
Yeah, that's you also store some of your server logic on chain. I gotta say, Dave and I've been working together for, I don't know, like a year and a half or so. A really long time. And Run has also evolved a lot as their use cases have evolved. But the one thing is, Crypto Fights is definitely using Run to its full extent. Almost every feature that Run supports, they're using in one way or the other. And one of the reasons that it's such a good match between these two companies is that jigs or tokens, what Run calls tokens, Run sees tokens a little bit differently than maybe how they're being talked about on Twitter. They're not just numerical amount tokens like shares of stock or digital rewards points. They're interactive software objects that are owned by people, and they're interactive because they're designed to, two fighters can come together into a battle, and their stats can be saved at the start of the battle, and then that battle becomes a new token that evolves on its own. Or when you win a game, the reward is outputted as a result of what you did with those jigs. And so this kind of interactivity is really at the core of what Run is. And to be fair, this is where BSV needs to go, because if you look at other blockchains on Ethereum, they call this composability. Your smart contracts can call other contracts, can be referenced from other contracts. And this is what enabled all the DeFi stuff to happen. And there's another blockchain called Flow that's basically focused on the same things. And the Flow blockchain was created by the CryptoKitties developers. They essentially left Ethereum to start their own network because Ethereum didn't scale for them. But what they needed was, after building CryptoKitties, they started having these third-party applications pop up, like, oh, you want to attach a hat to your kitten. That's a third-party app. The CryptoKitties team didn't build that. Someone else did. And that kind of composability of one application on top of another application, or one token on top of another token permissionlessly, is just really, really exciting. And no one's cracked it yet. Like, the Ethereum guys are definitely running at it. But basically with their sharding approach, they're going to fundamentally limit how much interactivity can happen between smart contracts. It's going to be very hard to move your assets from one shard to another shard. And then just to name another blockchain, the Flow blockchain is doing a lot like BSV, the Ethereum model, but one big blockchain. And maybe they'll go a little bit farther. But the cool thing is that Bitcoin has a UTXO-based model, and UTXOs are inherently scalable. And you have local state. And so if you have some jig or some game state, or I don't want to make this specific to Run, because really there's lots of people experimenting with script, and you're always dealing with local state, which is a beautiful thing. And then if this local state can interact with other local state, we have a real chance to build scalable blockchain apps that have data that evolves over time permissionlessly. And I know David has talked about Crypto Fights being like the dream is like Ready Player One. I think he said that in one interview. And I love that model for where BSV can actually go, because Ready Player One, people own their assets in this public world. Or maybe it was controlled by a company, but set that aside, because the goal is to have this be a public blockchain that anyone can build.
It's a better Ready Player One.
A better Ready Player One. Thank you. And I just think that is so exciting, because what you want is, after Crypto Fights launch, someone should be able to build something on top of that. And the same goes for not just, run jigs, but any application built on BSV. There should be, permissionlessly adding on top of it, adding new functions. So that interactivity is core of what Run does, and they're pushing it all the way. So, I have one more thing to say on this. Actually, today, if you go to, I'm going to announce this here today, even though tomorrow on Twitter is when it's going to be announced.
We love live
If you go to run.network, awesome. Yeah, if you go to run.network, you can download it. We've been developing this thing for a long, long time, and it's finally time to start going public. So you can get it. It's on NPM. It's on GitHub. We'll have much more coming, but I just want to get that out there. If you've been waiting for it, you can get it today. Tomorrow, the announcement will be here.
And also, I have dabbled with this a little bit over the last week or whatever. And I got to say, your documentation, the walkthrough of this is meticulously crafted. It's excellent.
Oh, thank you. It's a lot of people have given feedback on it too, so it evolves over time. I appreciate that.
Yeah. It is by far my most used reference material.
It's so well written out in terms of step by step, and then also just in terms of descriptions and bringing someone who has no idea what any of this could be up to speed on the language and understanding the larger concept of programming, even development in general. Really great job on that.
Cool, man. Well, that's how I feel about I want to shout out to Handcash Connect. I think your documentation is awesome. It's so clean and it looks easy to get started. And while we're talking to other people, I've been using Bitcoin files lately. I think that's a great product. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. And I feel like this whole year, 2020, has just been about building up infrastructure. I don't know. There's been a lot of quiet developments happening and still things to be launched, I'm sure. And, we've seen some signs of early applications that look really promising. I think Pure Game and TDXP are really exciting, how easy they are to use. And I think 2021 is going to be a fun year because a lot of this stuff is going to come to fruition.
I have a question on that. When you're talking about the infrastructure, so what goes into building the caching layer from the run side and then maybe the crypto fight side? Do you guys work with each other to build this caching layer and indexing the run tokens? Like, who does that fall on?
So do you want to go, David?
We use the run APIs or the actual the JavaScript APIs and override a lot of the different pieces. So I think it is something we've done fairly independently, but we've certainly worked together on it a lot. Yeah, I don't know. Brendan, you want to?
I mean, layer 2 caching is really an interesting space because, Mattercloud is also exploring this, hopefully with Run 2. And we, ideally, there should be no single place where, just like you don't have a single block explorer, there should be, many different caching solutions out there. And even like crypto fights or different applications can cache just their data. And there's a lot more to be. I think one thing is that, right now, if you're building with Run, you got to basically build your own caching solution out. And that's what Crypto Fights is doing. And that's also what Relay is doing. But there should be standard solutions like this, just like, you don't have to run a node. You can just call Mattercloud. There should be standard caching layers that you can, put some trust into if you want to. And then I think we can remove most of that trust in the future as well. So
we have been talking about different ways that there could be a more distributed state caching, almost possibly even on some second layer network could be like however you want to build it. I mean, whether it's using Boost or some other way to own authenticity, basically. But of actually having distributed caching potential. And it's mostly just been kind of at a dream level, but we've talked through a lot of cool possibilities of it. So.
Yeah, I would say one more thing is like if you look, there's models to be explored here that have already been explored, like on BSV. I mean, if you look at Ethereum, every transaction on Ethereum is basically a request to the nodes on the network to perform some action that updates some state, and the nodes, the mining nodes, do this work, and then after they've ran the transaction, they take that new state and they hash it, and they put proof of work behind it. And that proof of work is expensive, and it costs money to do, and it proves to other people that there's some truthfulness to this. So I think that general concept applies just as well to layer 1 in the case of Ethereum and BSV as it does to layer 2. And some of this will have to get built out, but I see no fundamental reason why we can't take those same principles and apply them to caching solutions in the future on Run, where you may have for example Matter Cloud or What's on Chain or any number of miners doing proof of work on layer 2 state just like they do on layer 1 state, and then applications end users can take their trust out and don't have to rely quite strongly on their application to do that caching.
So, and on a broader discussion than just the state caching, I mean, we are essentially a front end for all transactions that are broadcast through us. And so we essentially are caching all the transactions. We're not using any external wallet or anything like that. That's all that's all part of our system. And it's very simple key value lookups. We're in an Amazon cloud right now. So pretty much they just scale for us, and it's not the most performant, but it actually gets the job done pretty well. But I've totally forgot where I was going. Oh, just that because we're that one broadcast point, we don't really transaction validation is done by us having our transactions accepted by a miner that's well connected, that we trust. And then we rely on just zero comp protections beyond that. But that is our validation. So as soon as that transaction is accepted by that miner, all that data we just trust as being eventually correct. And so we're able to keep a local copy of everything and kind of work off of our own databases totally. And it's just that transaction broadcast that kind of is the validation for the whole rest of our system.
So let's talk. I feel like we've covered all the projects that the guys here are working on. If anybody feels like we haven't, this is your opportunity to speak up. We've looked back at 2020. We've discussed infrastructural build-out that's been occurring. We've been talking about longest chain developments that have been happening. I want to look forward. So what are you guys excited about for 2021 and BSV and Bitcoin development in general? What are you excited about that's coming around the bend? Anybody?
I guess for me, someone was it Brenton said earlier about this being kind of just a year of building infrastructure, and I feel like a lot of us are feeling like, and I certainly know that I am feeling like that part can probably be put behind for a little while. We can start looking at some fun stuff again, some kind of more. I don't know. It's felt kind of bogged down of. Well, we're looking forward. Forget about that. I'm excited to be able to kind of get out of that building infrastructure phase and into kind of looking at the next layer of where we're going.
Yeah, I'm most excited about, I guess, the social aspect. I've been with my head down building this Bitcoin thing, and my friends don't really know what I'm doing. But 2021 is the year where, I can point to crypto fights and I'd be like, hey, play this game with me. It runs on Bitcoin. Or, hopefully there'll be a ton of apps in the Handcash App Store gallery where, everyday people in my life will be able to use Bitcoin and actually get value from it and want to use it. And So I think all of that infrastructure is built, and now those types of things are really possible now.
I think the thing that excites me, I suppose, is I think next year you'll definitely see everything go peer to peer, and that's really good because it allows things to scale infinitely. It also adds some extra niceness to things, like for example, especially for something like, say, something like Run, knowing the order in which like state updates from the mempool versus from someone hitting your API. If someone hits your API in a certain order, right? Like you'll know A happened before B. If something hits the mempool in different orders, like you may not necessarily know that. It may not matter, but it also may matter for like certain actions. But if you do that like peer to peer, right? Like if you're using the API directly, that it, like lets you know things like you could think for an exchange, for example, right? Like did A happen before B or not? When something directly affects something, you can do things like hashing or a transaction chain. But when they don't, and you still want to show the order, that's something that the mempool's not like super great for. So like I think and people just indexing their own stuff, like it will lead to much better solutions, I think. Yeah, and then also like the use of SPV as like kind of, if you imagine the Mandela network, like miners at the middle, SPV nodes in the second layer, and then like peer-to-peer wallets in the third layer. I think that's really how you like scale things up. And I think next year you'll start to see people move towards that kind of model, and in which case it will make things as easy as building any other kind of web app, but just you're getting money, and then hopefully wallets actually making use of script. That's something that I'm working on personally. Right now we can spend to whatever script we want, but we can't really like unlock any script we want because that's like a fundamentally pretty difficult thing to know ahead of time. What like the problem wallets have is this, right? Like they need to index the state of things that they don't know are important, and then know how to unlock them, and then know how to send them to other people, and those other people also have to do the same thing, right? And so it's like you're either doing that, or you're trusting some API, or whatever. And every time a new thing comes out, we have to go and do all this work again. And if the other wallets don't implement it, then nothing works together, and yada yada yada. So like that's a problem I'm working on. But I think when you solve that, then you end up sort of kind of like what the guys were talking about earlier, like things like composability, interoperability, like those sort of things start to become possible. So I think 2021 will be the year that happens. I also think 2021 might be the year that we strike the Visa transaction per second, like sort of numbers. So that's another interesting thought. Like, all like making all the apps talk to each other and work together becomes easy, and then we hit sort of the Visa transaction numbers on testnet. I think those two things put together is pretty powerful.
I would agree with that. I think it is interesting that people are pointing at the market cap of BTC and many other transaction rails out in the world, like Visa and MasterCard, yet are not able to attain the throughput. So BSV, in that sense, I think is probably the closest to achieving that. Attila, you popped up.
Yeah, I want to second what Dean said there. I think the mempool is a bad meme. As in order for Bitcoin to scale, app developers can just track their own chronological ordering of their transactions that are like not yet settled. I think that's actually the way Bitcoin was intended to scale. And once we get rid of this idea of there's like a global mempool and operating in someone else's frame of reference, as soon as you start operating in your own frame of reference for your own business and treating the blockchain as a proof of work signal, like a beacon, you start to get really freed up, where you realize you have everything you need for validation, for crypto fights, like David was talking about. You have the confidence in what you're using the blockchain for, that the miners are almost like just a mere settlement layer. And so I think this model is the key to growing. And what Brandon was saying as well, that I'm really excited about the social aspect, is actual developers understanding what this technology can do. They're still in the old paradigm where there's monolithic node, there's like a global view of the mempool, and they're that way of thinking chains the developer and removes control from the developer. So I think self-indexing peer-to-peer is what I'm most excited about, because I really want to see 10 times the throughput proven out on the scaling testnet, not just 5,000 transactions per second. I'll start getting interested around 50,000 and actually seeing that operate. That's what I'm really keen and excited for, is like just the sheer raw capacity and the developers understanding that you can build sophisticated, composable smart contracts on BSV at multiple layers, from the run platform to the proof of concept super assets we're working on. That's the most exciting thing for me, is other developers realizing that they can do all the cool things on any other blockchain, and they can do it here. And we can just humbly point to 5,000 transactions per second on scaling testnet, sustained for 24 hours. That was a milestone we hit, earlier in the year, a long time ago now, really. And so just proving that out and spreading awareness about this capabilities is just going to bring in more development. That's what is the most exciting thing for me as well.
Do you guys think that development, do you think that is the key aspect? Do you think that onboarding users is the key aspect? Do you think that it's symbiotic? What do you guys think is going to be the flip, or the switch that flips for people and makes them realize, like, it doesn't matter if this is original Bitcoin or if this has, market cap of XYZ, but the thing that actually makes people start to say, oh, I want to be here just because I like what is occurring and I want to participate in that.
One boring aspect of that is actually what I've kind of been getting into with our accounting system, is just the fact that it's really easy. If your whole business is actually tied together this way, like, you don't have other systems. You don't have, it's just all there, all interconnected. And so in some ways, not even people really knowing or understanding Bitcoin at all, but just realizing how awesome of a tool this is. Yeah.
I feel like there does need to be like user onboarding and stuff, but I think it's kind of, we don't have very good PR, and I think
I would agree with that.
It's kind of like this, like, imagine an alien spaceship crashed in the middle of the planet and it was damaged and you had to try and fix it, right? And there was no instruction manual or anything, right? But you knew that it had this ability to, like, fly and take you to other worlds and, like, go across the galaxy and whatever, right? That's kind of what it feels like working on BSV, where it's like, I think like I've built on 5, I think, other chains, and like BSV is actually like the hardest one that I've ever built on, because the tooling is like not as good as, say, Ethereum or something, right? But then it actually scales. so instead of having that sort of scale ceiling that Ethereum has, right, this will actually scale, and you can make those tools better. And then, it's also like it's harder than BTC because it's like every now and then you get a massive block flying through your system, and you're like, oh, I didn't account for that. So but I think those are solvable problems, whereas like the scale thing is an unsolvable problem. And I think it's kind of this like double-edged sword, right? Like you look at like utility as a focus, right? It's like, well, what is utility, right? Utility could literally be like, okay, BTC gets to have the meme of I'm the $30,000 coin, and BSV is just like the settlement layer where we move it around, and that's utility, and that's why BSV is useful, right? I think that's pretty sad. Like even though it's cool, like great, we can scale BTC on BSV. Like that's what utility gets you, right? If that's your only focus, right? You need to like, I think the enterprise thing, like it's a bit of a meme. Like sure, great, we'll get a couple of enterprise people on there. And in fact, my business BidPing like has onboarded enterprises, and we do make money that way. We do give users money and pay people, and that's really great. But I think we need also, a consumer facing. Yeah.
Brian was dropping links, but feel free to drop your links into the lobby chat where there's actually a little bit of the text-based chat portion, so that goes out live to the feed, so people can check that out too. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I did want to make sure that people actually can check out what you're talking about. Go ahead, Phil.
Like what Dean's saying, all of it is very true, because there's like there's the PR problem that you have, and you brought up, it's kind of symbiotic, because you obviously need the tooling. The scalability is like I think the end game factor that kind of has people maybe go through these phases where they've worked on other chains and then they end at BSV. But you have the PR thing, which you need PR. Use case is kind of a meme, because like what you intend the use case to be may not be the use case the user finds it for. So you may be designing something that it's not used, the way that it ends up being popularly used for or utilized for. But the UX is important, as David mentioned, because you want people to be able to come in and just be able to use the product when it's difficult to use, or they're having to click too many things and they're discouraged, which Twetch has done a really good job with the way they've rolled out their product, because they slowly introduced it to groups of people and let that group kind of build as they built on their product, and didn't pull anyone in who was too early, quote unquote, to kind of get a taste for it. Like the people that got brought in early were people they knew that they could introduce something to and iterate on, and they weren't going to lose them as a customer. Whereas if you have a product that's unfinished and you just release it to the whole world, then there's quite a few people that are going to use the product, and it's not going to be what they want, and then they're never going to use it again. It's like when you like see something that has a bad review, or you use a product and it's so shit that you want to give it a bad review. It doesn't matter if they improved it 3 years later. Like the only thing that's going to stick in your head is the 1-star review you gave it and how shit it was the first time. So I feel like they go hand in hand, because you need a strong group of developers that are building products that are useful and actually have use cases that can be derived from them. And then you also need it on the other end, where you have engaging people that actually want to take part in these experiments and these products that are being put out. And that all falls back to PR. Like you need good marketing, and you need good optics for people to want to try these products. And a lot of them are just making the optics so that it's an actual product, and it's not viewed as a BSV product. So taking the SV off the names, BidPing did something like that. Twetch is something, I could go through the lists, Chronoverse and Crypto Fights and stuff. Everyone's moved away from the SV naming, and I think it's good. Critical. Because you want people to see it as just a functional app that's leveraging Bitcoin, but think of it as the application first, and them using Bitcoin secondary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. Like, if you, because the whole focus has been on utility, and like utility is great, but like, do you really want to just be a settlement layer for BTC? Like, I don't think so. At the same time, at the point that BSV can do Visa better than Visa, which is why I'm sort of excited for, we'll probably hit that milestone next year, I assume. Like, if we can, that's pretty huge. Because all of a sudden you've got this, multi-billion-dollar payments industry, and it's like, hey, some RNG salesman can do it better. Like that. That is a sort of utility where, if you force, like, it won't force, but I mean, it'll entice people to use the chain instead of using their own private networks. I think that could be really powerful. Like that could be a really major like win. That could be a turning point, if we manage to do something like that. But yeah, definitely in the meantime, consumer facing apps. Like we need consumers. We need everyday stuff. Design great products, build your audience, bring in new people.
Totally. I'm looking forward to releasing the Twitch mobile app and kind of going along with what Phil's saying, like getting Twitch to a spot that it's much more accessible to a broader audience than crypto folk. And I think releasing a mobile app with a smooth onboarding will get us to 100,000 users, no question. And much more daily active users. So growing that consumer base, there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to do it. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to, with Matterpool, we're going to mine the world's largest block and get in the Guinness Book of World Records. Nice. So that's going to be fun, and it's going to be filled with Twetches and your Bitcoin files. That'll be cool. And then I think Joe Biden's going to do some funny stuff with big social networks, and I think that is also going to push a lot of people to looking at alternatives. And I think there's going to be a good opportunity for BSV to be there for when that happens.
Everybody get their predictions in? Is that everybody? I just have a question. I have a question for Dave. I'm just waiting my turn.
Well, not so much maybe a prediction, but a hope that we actually get the messaging down, because I'm hearing from all of us like different views of Bitcoin, and that getting our story right beyond utility. Right, Bitcoin is a system of not just a peer-to-peer cash system, but it is a system of wealth and communication. And so that's what I'm really hoping for, is that we.
Is it easier if it's just everything? Like it's whatever the user wants it to be?
Yeah, if it's just a black box that people see whatever they want in and are able to extract that experience out of, I think that's more important than unifying message. I would also say that, is there irreparable damage that has been done to BSV by some of the larger voices or larger money? I don't know. I honest to God, guys, I hate watching people bickering about nonsense on Twitter and telling people this is the original protocol or blah, 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 and all these talking points. Like, it really does not matter to me. And it's so cringe to watch this stuff happen. And that's why, the people that are here hanging out and the developers in this circle, like, you guys are very heads down and you don't necessarily get wrapped up in the back and forth. And I like that a lot. I respect you guys for not participating in some of those things.
You're going to have I don't think there's irreversible damage. I think it just takes a while to reverse the optics that were already placed upon it. And that just goes with drowning out the original vision with a new version of that, which has been kind of what's happening. And and the bickering about like, you know, the purists will say, who believe that, you know, this is the one true Bitcoin and talk in that type of fashion in public. You have that with every chain. Like, you know, you have the .eths where ETH is money.
That's true.
And you
For sure.
have the BTC. You know, it's just that BSV is such a smaller pond that it seems like a larger portion of it. But you go to every protocol or you get, you know, involved with any of them, and you're going to see that subset of people that act the same way. It's just people that are married to their bags.
So I'm hearing that we all need to participate together more out on these other social networks to be able to redirect the conversation away from this top-down PR campaign that has been occurring.
I think it's even beyond that. I think everyone looks at the top-down PR campaign and like they're like, what? You know, like really, like if you look at what's actually happening on chain, it's basically like, you know, in terms of human transactions, it's like Twitch and Bitcoin files, and you know, a lot of these companies that aren't necessarily a part of that. You know, certainly you'll see a lot of other things coming up in the future that are. But I think kind of a lot of people like, if not outright reject the narrative, they just like find it irrelevant and don't care. And that's why I think a lot of people who like are developers don't engage.
Yeah, that's certainly how I feel too. It's you know, maybe it's because I am a developer that a lot of the narrative sort of doesn't bother me one way or the other, because I'm here for, you know, building technologies, building apps, and I'm looking around at, you know, all the blockchains that are there. And I'm saying, you know, where's the opportunity and where's the long-term possibility? And to me, that looks like BSV. So, you know, there's a bit of a selfish concern here that, you know, maybe it's better to be the one to build out some of this stuff first, you know. But at the same time, we got to get more developers in, like really as soon as possible, because you know, I was at an Ethereum hackathon, and it's amazing how many people. There's like thousands of people show up to these things, and it's fun and it's exciting. And you know, the one thing I learned from going to one is like a lot of the people that attend these things, they don't. You get the purists. You definitely get the purists on Ethereum, for example, that you know, have their bags or whatever. But you have a lot of people that just want to be a part of something new and exciting, and you know, want to be at the forefront of whatever technology is going to be in the future. And I think those are the people that we just got to keep in mind. And for me, not really worry about the narrative. Just, you know, the victors will write the story. So the most successful apps, the most successful technologies on BSV are going to be the ones setting the messaging long term.
I found that like with I've not had you don't have as much pushback or conflict. I feel like when talking to Ethereum developers, I work with, you know, quite a few, and with some other companies, and they kind of understand it's more of a preference for them and ease of development. Like some just prefer using Solidity, or they're used to developing that way, and then there's just a robust set of tools for them to use in documentation, and we just don't have that yet on BSV. Like, you know, they're many years ahead of us with on that front. When it comes to like what tools are available to someone and where they can look to find help and assistance with whatever they're building. So I think it also just takes time of you know, having good documentation and tool sets available for developers to easily come over and go, oh, I had this app on Ethereum that, you know, I thought would be really successful, but I know it won't scale and I need to scale, so I want to build on BSV. But like, where is the place that they can go where they find everything? You know, where are some easy tools that they can import and use?
I agree with that.
You know, you have to look a bit with BSV stuff. You have to kind of dig around and see like what is the best option for me? Am I going to use these tools by Unwriter? Am I going to use Matterpools? There's just so many different ways that you can go that you need there needs to be
A
I don't know, just
centralized
some
repository.
documentation. Yeah, just something to say like, oh, if you're doing X, then you can use A, B, and C. These would work well together. If you're using Y, then you'll want to put these tools together.
It's like Ethereum. You can go to GitHub and be like, here is an audited Dice contract. Here is an audited DeFi contract, right? And you can just go and deploy it.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
You just fork it and you go. You just change what you want to change, and you're ready to go. And you just can't do that with Bitcoin. Like, you can't do that with BSV, right?
I think there's one aspect of that, though, is because in a lot of ways, like I spent a lot of time really fighting with Ethereum, and really what it comes down to is you are very limited by gas, because the most that can get put in a block is like 8 million gas. And so at that point, there can be this centralized kind of best standards library simply because there's very little you can do. And so now we're in a world where there really is, I mean, exponentially more possibilities of how these different tools work together. It doesn't go simply from, okay, I'm a software developer, I understand how to write software, therefore here's the software language where I can write stuff. I mean, that's kind of Ethereum's thing, is it's really easy to get into, but it's so limited that the possibilities are really limited as well. And so the universe of how to do things is so much bigger, because in reality, there are going to be lots of ways. It's like saying, how do you write software when where you're dealing with is you've got a CPU? I mean, there's layers of abstraction, and there's just so many different things for different use cases.
I think, though, right, the limits are fundamentally not on what you can do, like utility, but rather on volume. And the thing that really should stick out to anyone is that Ethereum has been the economic powerhouse of blockchain since 2017. BTC is literally just a tool to move large amounts of liquidity around, but Ethereum is where all the transactions have been happening, and people have been willing to pay through the nose to move transactions around because of the economic value that it's created. And what you really need is for BSV to be able to capture this value. And right now it's not doing it. And that's a solvable problem, but that's what needs to happen. I think that's what Phil's trying to say.
So before we keep going forward, I want to look back real quick, just momentarily, because the topic, we brushed against it. Ryan Charles and Money Button, right? They have sold Money Button to Fabric. Thoughts on this? Positive, negative, difficulties dealing with implementing Money Button, opportunities for other wallet developers out there. What do you guys think? Anybody?
It's a good thing that investors value stuff that we're doing, that they see it worthy of buying some of them out. Just that's like, it'd be worse if no one was putting money into development. However, it's done. Just, I don't know the particulars of the deal or anything like that, but I think generally that's a good sign that investors care, that they want to acquire some of these companies. I think that's a good thing. I won't speak to or haven't really thought about implications for their company. I'm busy on my own, of course, but I think generally that's it's a good thing that we get more attention.
I think it's I think it kind of took everyone by surprise, just how quickly that happened, and a lot of people were not like super happy about it. Like, it looked like a sort of a bullish move. It's like, you have the number one wallet in the space in terms of like users, and you're selling it. Like that looks like a bullish. Sorry, it looks so bearish. That looks like a bearish, sort of signal. And a lot of people like kind of rub them the wrong way. I can understand why, perhaps someone would want to do that. I know it's also a lot of pressure running a wallet, and they had a very small team doing that, and a very, quite frankly, like very talented team. And As for like good or bad, community perception was bad. As for like if it is actually good or bad, I guess we're yet to see, right? We need to see what comes of it. So you can't really judge until something happens.
Yeah, I agree. Because, like, I mean, isn't the goal to grow your company to a size to where you're comfortable either selling it or it being eternal and you passing it along forever? And I mean, maybe for them, it just reached the point to where they had a good point to where they could sell it and they could move on to like build what they want to build next. And maybe that's just a 10-part Craig Wright series, but that's what we don't know yet.
Yeah, and Ryan is still involved, as I understand. Is anybody aware?
I honestly haven't paid too much attention to, like, I try not to get caught up in like the Bitcoin drama or like who's doing what.
Well, I think it's less drama than
I'm just
in regards
saying
to him staying on board. You know, I think that's a valuable signal.
I just meant like, I haven't kept my eyes on them.
If I were running a wallet and I had a bunch of users, I'd be focusing on how I make more money out of my users. I wouldn't be looking to have a boss. That's my perspective. But you know, that's we're operating on imperfect information. We don't know. You know, we're not privy to what that deal was. So
certainly,
you know, you can't know. But
yeah,
Ryan was tired of it.
I was disappointed they were unable to like make a profitable business model and not need to be sold. If they had found a way to do that, I think they wouldn't have been sold, and Money Button could be a much greater product than it is now. Like I haven't seen all that much development or improvement. It's been the same product for a year now, right? Like, but that's just how it is.
How should wallets be monetizing? You guys are developers. You're using these wallets. You are integrating them into your projects and getting people to use them on a daily basis or weekly, monthly basis, whatever that is.
It's a race to the bottom, in my opinion, for wallets.
It's a rough business model.
I mean, wallets don't necessarily make money. They're kind of more a liability than like a money maker. So if you really want to make money with a wallet, the things you can compete on are UX, financial services, stuff like that. Like put it this way: if at the end of the day every wallet implemented every feature, they would all have the same abilities, and one would not be better than the other. How then would you compete, right? It's the same like Bitcoin miners. They all use ASICs, right? You're not gonna like unless you get a better ASIC, you know, you're not gonna like outcompete some other miner drastically, right? So you have to think, how do I make this better? Well, I think like wallets should be paying users to use the wallet, but the wallet should also be making money. Like, so that's the problem you have to solve, right? Well, there's ways you can do that, like, you know, liquidity providers or apps like, you know, Twitch or BitPing. We pay people just to download our app. Like, but yeah, like wallets are rough, man. I think
I've been working with wallets for the last, even still now, I'm still contracting with wallet companies, and I've been working with them for the last, you know, like almost 4 years. And I mean, he's right. It's a race to the bottom. You have to find, and they often go about it the wrong way because they choose the easy way to monetize, which is give a free service and monetize the only service that they offer, which is an exchange. Which isn't the best UX because then you're having users, you know, you're betting that your user experience is good enough to upcharge them just enough for you to be profitable, but not enough for them to go and exchange on a centralized market. And the other way that they compete is what Dean said with other financial services, integrating lending and borrowing, other apps, or you know, doing something like
look at Celsius.
Like what Handcash is, and put a app store within it to where you need to pay to access the app store. And yeah, Celsius. A lot of them are moving that way. I had a slide about this almost a year ago, last January, when we were in San Francisco for the 2018 summit, and I used like Handcash and Relay and Exodus and Atomic, and I showed them all like side by side, like what they all look like, and they all come to look like the same exact product eventually, because they're trying to implement all of the financial features that a person or an everyday user would use. And at that point in time, it was just a portfolio to view and manage all of it, your wallet and exchange, and then some had purchasing. Because they wanted a way to, what's the best way to easily onboard someone who's not involved in crypto and then give them everything they need to start themselves out. But then where do you go from there? And that's where most of the wallets get stuck and they end up going underwater, is that they create a nice on-ramp if they have the fiat. If they don't have the fiat, then they're in this weird place where they're not able to onboard users who are new to crypto. They're only able to onboard users that have already been in, but have gotten around to, I shouldn't be keeping my money on Coinbase, or I shouldn't keep my money on Binance. So they look for something else, like where can I conveniently keep my assets and not be controlled. And the market's kind of dying a bit, because 3 years ago or so, multi-asset wallets had no problem acquiring users because mining was very profitable with home mining equipment. So you oftentimes were just capitalizing on that market of hobby and spec miners by offering a multi-asset wallet, so they could switch between mining different coins and have one central wallet to deposit everything into and do their swaps. And now, because most of those chains have either upgraded and now are using ASICs, or they've switched algorithms, or their difficulty is so high that you can't do it with just a simple workstation. The want and need for just a basic multi-asset wallet that's just an easy, here's a place to store everything, has kind of passed. So you have to look at like what other features are people using. And to me, like it's more looking at the communities and going, what do they want out of this asset that I'm providing them a wallet for? For BSV, it's give them a portal to access all of these other applications and find a way to monetize that.
I think it's actually it's pretty simple. We all use Visa cards. Well, maybe not all of us, but they charge a fee to the vendor every time you swipe that card. I think wallets should just do that, and whether they charge the consumer or the vendor, the consumer at some point will just pay the price.
Yeah.
And then you just charge a fee, like what Handcash. When we start to grow with Handcash, I'm sure Twitch will have to pay for Handcash. Well, then I'll just make it a little bit more expensive to
utilize
Twitch
through Handcash.
Yeah.
Using Handcash, and then it'll all work.
But you think about this, right? If we're thinking if we're thinking shit coining for a second, what's more attractive to someone who doesn't understand anything? I download your wallet and I pay you a fee to publish transactions, or I download some other chain's wallet and they've got proof of stake, and if I stake my coin, then I get more shit coins, and it looks like I'm making money.
That's into the financial service part. Like that's why they're all they're moving into like, what other services for this asset can I offer? And like for ETH, there's a plethora of them, because all of these other projects have just spawned on top of it. So you can go, okay, I'm going to support Ethereum, and by supporting Ethereum, you now support pretty much all of those protocols. Yeah. You just have to implement a UI and some Web3 stuff to be able to interact with those contracts. And now you have a multi-asset portal that, gives you the functionality to access all this other stuff. And we need that for BSV. They need to be able to log into a wallet and go, okay, I want to log into Twitch. I can log into that. Oh, I want to run my BitPing node. Well, I can set it up using this address, and whatever it may be. Like they should have access. And Relay's on the right track, I think, with doing that, giving people a portal to go, here, I have Bitcoin. It's stored in this wallet. Here's my apps that I can access from this one place. But obviously, there's always room to expand and improve from there.
I'm just sort of saying, like, which one sounds better, right? I download this wallet and I get paid, even though the
latter,
value is going to be inflated
absolutely
away.
The latter, like what you said, like, it's
like
the one that's going to give you,
long term is going to be inflated away, like this, 10,000% inflation schedule, obviously not sustainable or good, but in the short term, I've got tokens, right? Like for the average person, they want to make money, right?
See,
So
we're talking about monetization, though, and from Wallet's perspective, it's simple. It's just selling use cases to businesses and developers. If a business wants nano payments or a business wants some special use case that's most efficient in using Bitcoin, then that's what wallets can sell to businesses.
But why would a business leverage and white label your wallet when the documentation's there for them to just build that wallet into theirs?
Because it's more expensive to do so.
No,
You might as well specialize.
It won't be more itself. And then you pair that with something like, say, TXQ. Well, then you've got all your transactions in two places. You'll never have to like scan the chain or whatever. It's very cheap, and people are just going to like build this stuff and open source it, and you're going to be able to run it yourself. So like that's why I say like being a wallet is really like it's rough. You really need to
That's
you
why
need you do something like Celsius or something like that.
I could see Money Button and Relay getting outcompeted by a system like that because.
Yeah.
Frankly, like I don't know if Relay doesn't make any money, they're going to get bought by someone too. It's going to be the same thing as Money Button, but there is the case for something like Handcash where it's keyless. They have all this, really simple infrastructure for normal people that don't understand how to save a seed phrase and do all that kind of work. I think there is a model.
I think they're killing themselves. I don't see the crowd model like going very far because you're giving it's a pseudo custodial account, and like people can argue about it night and day.
Non-custodial.
People can argue about it being non-custodial night and day with me. It's a pseudo custodial system because I can't take my keys and go somewhere else. That means that I'm trusting other people to manage it. It means it's not in my control.
Yeah.
Not only that, right? But like,
that's a service people would be willing to pay for.
I would not be willing to pay. Well, why would I?
But a lot of people.
I want you to actually think about this, okay? Why would I pay for Handcash to store my seed in different servers uninsured when I could keep that same money in any of the exchanges or centralized services that are honest about being custodial and will insure my money? What is the benefit?
We're not trying to store your life savings. We're trying to be a
different use case.
Yeah,
I think it's different. For ease of use. Like I don't know why people use Google Docs when they have a word processor on their computers and can save it there, but they do.
Use Google Docs. Well, that was
before Google Docs
to collaborate.
Microsoft Word crashes every 5 minutes.
Live collaboration.
Everything.
Yeah, I was going to say I use Docs instead of Word now because it's easy to collaborate with people to go, here's my notes. You can
Is
edit
Handcash a collaborative wallet?
Yeah, so you're going for the user experience.
I like the UX of Handcash. I don't like the change of going to.
I think
I don't like that it's slowly changed from like in the very beginning, right? Like the deprecation of support for legacy addresses. I didn't like that because it's moving. I know that's their.
But you have to understand.
I know that you guys are viewing it a different way, but it's moving it. It's moving Bitcoin completely out of it and saying if you don't operate within this system, then you can't use this. So you're leaving users out of being able to use it, but you're creating a roadblock by saying, well, you can still use it, but you have to use a third-party service in order to interact with an exchange, interact with this financial service. You're cutting off the roadways of people being able to move in and out and use it functionally as a wallet that has all the use cases that people are actually using it for right now. Like I said, I love using Handcash, but I can't use it as a wallet that I store my funds in. I can only use it as something that I'm kind of using as a toy.
That's intentional, though. It's designed for specific use cases, and it's optimized for those use cases. And even the back end design is like it's all one integrated design. So if we made compromises and did everything you wanted it to do with every Bitcoin function, then it wouldn't be the same user experience that you like.
I don't mind all of the changes being made except for now that it's saying you cannot take your Bitcoin with you. This is your wallet. These are yours, but you can't take it with you. You have to send it somewhere.
What are you talking about?
Like you can't those UTXOs. You can't import those UTXOs to another wallet. You have to spend them if you want to move it. Yeah, that's what he's saying.
I mean, also importing UTXOs is kind of silly when you have, a million of them or something. Like, it is kind of better to send, but to simply say you can't.
Yeah, but what's the use case for exporting UTXOs?
The use case is not being beholden to hand cash.
Exactly.
I think
but
you get
what's the difference between sending your Bitcoin versus importing to a different wallet?
If the App Store decides to pull hand cash tomorrow, how do I access my Bitcoin?
Exactly.
We'll make sure you get it.
But do you see? I'm having to trust another human being.
Yeah,
that you'll make sure that I get it, and that's where the problem lies for me. That I can't go. There's no security that if something happens to the application hand cash, that I can still access the funds that I have stored in there on my own.
I mean, there's a flip side. There's a flip side to that too, right? Like, what if my seed that I wrote down is in my house and my house burns down? So, there's a flip side to that as well.
But there's also ways around that. Like, you could just you could use the username and I'm already giving you a phone number. You could create, assault with the seed. And then creates security questions.
Those are already
those
explored.
With a public key.
That was before my time at Handcash, but Rafa and Alex explored those possibilities, and they ran into issues with that too. And
there's always issues, but I think the trade-off is that you're still allowing your user to actually have control.
My biggest thing with the threshold signature thing is right now how it's configured, it's 2 single points of failure, which I think is fundamentally worse than 1 single point of failure, because any one of them could fail and then the whole thing fails. If you could have it
that's not true though.
It's not true?
No.
So you need 2 parties to form a valid signature, right?
Right. It's 2 of 2.
Right. And so if any one of those fails, then the entire system fails.
But
it's 2 single points of failure. It's not one.
Yeah,
single
but
point of failure.
there's a cold trust holder involved too.
Okay, so it could be recovered.
Yeah, so it could be recovered.
So then there's 3. There's 3. Okay, yeah, because in my perspective, right, threshold signatures are cool, but it would be more cool to me if people were holding different polynomials that could create the same key, so you could do something like 2 of 8 or something or 3 of 8, and then you could have multiple points of failure in the same way as multisig, but it doesn't cost more to make those transactions and they conform to a regular P2PKH. That would be really cool.
A lot of opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
Different apps that have their own wallets, actually kind of getting a way to trust each other. I think there's a lot of opportunity for Handcash and Money Button and Relay and us and whatever, such that you can choose how many shards across those. And so when you authenticate into the place, you're actually saying, okay, I want to recover from these other 3 providers that all have a shard, instead of saying, so you almost get to the point that wallets almost become more integrated into the apps where they're used. But if we can get a good interactivity between them, we could actually use it to do a 3 of 8 or something like that.
Does anyone use a separate device to store their 2FAs than their standard phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
some 2FAs.
Have you ever lost that?
I have not.
Yeah,
no.
that's such a.
I have.
We have
evidence, and that's my concern, right? I have a separate phone that is not online. The only time that I connect it to my Wi-Fi is when I'm actually using my 2FA device, when I need to access it comes off of airplane mode. So I use it for nothing else, and I've misplaced that and wasn't able to access a ton of different accounts that I have funds on, and I couldn't find it for about a month. And that is why this is something that is a worry to me, right? Because if I lose let's say I'm using Handcash just on that phone. If I lose that phone, like, how do I get my Bitcoin back? I can't just I can't go into my safe and pull out my pieces of paper that have my seeds for my wallets.
You re-authenticate with your email address and your phone number on a new device.
There we go.
For Handcash, at least.
Cool. Yeah.
So here's a question.
Okay, so
New prompt.
I can re-authenticate. So there's my recovery for that.
New prompt here. Should wallets be miners? Should miners be maintaining wallets?
What do you mean by that?
Well, we've talked a lot
Probably
about the monetization of wallets and the profitability and how it's a race to the bottom. So if for sure, Harry. With the nature of mining being profit driven and wallets being user driven, maybe they need to be married. That's kind of where I'm headed with that. Thoughts?
I think vertical integration is a good thing. So if you could do that, it just reduces your cost. And even with apps, it's not just wallets. If I could mine all the Twetches cheaper, then I could have a better user experience on Twetch because I could reliably get my stuff on chain and for cheaper.
Harry, is TwetchPay a wallet?
TwetchPay? No, it's not. It's an interface to other wallets.
Okay.
A standard interface.
Similar to Pay Presto in that sense?
Yes,
you're familiar?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned wanting to talk about the Relay X card. Definitely an interesting development. I think that Handcash is also doing something similar, I believe.
I think Jack was doing parody.
Wait, what? Oh, he was just messing okay. Well, what can you do?
Jack made a fan fiction.
Unfortunate. Well, I do believe that Handcash will ultimately choose to do something like that. I don't think that people are just going to be breaking out their phones all the time.
I have a question about it. Is it a taxable event like capital gains tax when I spend on that card?
Yes.
Or am I just spending BSV?
I believe it's a preloaded. So I think you actually, I don't know for sure where I got that from. So maybe I
think you're right.
Maybe I.
Isn't it regardless
when you load your card? What's that?
I mean, regardless, it's still a taxable event, Harry.
Oh, right, because you're spending.
Right.
That makes sense.
It's still a sale of Bitcoin.
So here's a question.
I think it's like you top up, and so that's the disposal of the crypto when you top up, as far as I understand.
It seems like this has been tried a million times, and it hasn't worked out, and I'm not sure why. But I just don't.
Transaction.
People don't like to spend their crypto. I think people don't like to spend. They like the idea of being able to spend their crypto, but they don't actually like to spend it.
Yeah,
I want to get rid of my dirty fiat before I get rid of my crypto.
It's too volatile, and it goes up too much now for people to be okay with spending it. Like in 2017, I spent a lot. I was spending crypto all the time. Site that had crypto available to spend, I was spending it. And then come mid 17, when it started really taking off, you didn't want to spend your crypto. And now we're at a point again where the market is really volatile, everything's popping off, and people don't really know where it's going to go. It's getting to a place where I think it's hard for people to want to spend something without knowing.
I think it's more regulations which really clamp down. I was using my BitPay card all the time when there's no, I don't think there's any KYC back in 2016 with your prepaid debit card.
No, you didn't need it.
But
you just linked it to a mobile app.
Right. So there's been a ton of ICOs that come out and have done the prepaid debit card. So I don't see what's different here. And
they weren't implemented very well. Like Monaco, in order to use the card, you have to hold Monaco. So they're asking you to take downside risk of holding this asset that has no use other than being staked to use a credit card. And then in order to get benefits from the credit card, they're paid in another shitcoin. to you that is based on how much of the first shitcoin you're holding in the wallet. So I think it comes down to like bad Ponzi-nomics for the card of how that's used, and the same thing with the 10x card. Like BitPay had a good card, and the Coinbase card is a pretty good card, but the other token specific cards were pretty shit. So I think what makes the Relay card different, it's not just Relay having a card, but a BSV card, is that people who use BSV like to spend their BSV.
I think even if they don't want to, right? I'm happy to pay $35 for the option of being able to spend it. Like, let's say my bank card is declined, I'm traveling, and I'm out of options. I've got all this money sitting here, and I can't use it, right? That's a bad UX, right? So this does solve a pain point for me.
Just you're right. Pulling funds and like all having to scan like one wallet, like someone could just pay with their card and then all scan and pay them back in BTC or in Bitcoin.
When we were I just remember we were like in a like a, what do you call it? Like a beer place in Germany. There's a word for that. I can't. Yeah, but like we were there, and it's like, hey, who's gonna get the bill, right? Yeah, we'll send you Bitcoin, blah blah blah. Like, it was awkward. Like, yeah, definitely being able to just be like, all right, here's my Relay. Everyone send me some money. All right, boom. Like, that's pretty great. But I just think like the thing that it solves for me is giving me the option to be able to liquidate my crypto on demand if I wanted to, at a point of sale. You know, like that would be really a good option, right? It's like good to have the option. You probably don't necessarily want to do that all the time, but you know, sometimes.
Does anybody know who's facilitating this card to be able to transact? I mean, I'd understand that it's a prepaid card, but oftentimes these prepaid cards are still tapped into Visa or MasterCard networks. No, who is
the picture said Visa on it?
Oh, did it? Okay, I didn't look. I didn't look that closely. So
does anyone know if this is tied in with their wrapped USDC at all? Is there any of the liquidity? Is it? I don't know.
That would be interesting. That would definitely be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I read the blog post that they came out with. Just kind of scanned over it and saw some things I liked, but I didn't even look close enough to see that there was a Visa logo on the card. So, if anybody's more familiar with that or has closer information.
I was a little surprised. Well, I mean, I don't know for sure, but that it was available for U.S. citizens.
Right.
Because I don't know specifically which cards, but I had looked into some of the crypto cards, and before it was like none of them were available for the United States. So,
I mean, Jack does have some relationships with Circle, so it might be that there's some deeper integrations than any of us knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's also got a lot of access to like liquidity and stuff like that. So,
Well, he should make that available on Float for us.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's got a lot.
Float's having some issues.
Yeah, being tied to. Okay.
But we could talk like after this, Harry, because I know a way kind of around that. If you're like wanting to, I mean, it's through them, but Jack has a different way to get like instant access to BSV, but you have to kind of use some other pipings.
Interesting. I was using Beckerich. I have like a business account there, and they're welcoming of BSV and Americans.
Yeah.
For fiat or no?
For fiat, yeah.
Yeah.
You can pay into Beckerich with fiat?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also an app, I think, called Abra that you can
bank transfer, or do you have to like do a wire transfer?
I'm trying my best to get MoonPay.
I'm not actually quite sure. I haven't bought anything, but I just wanted to have it set up so if I were to want to buy some, I would like be good.
They're just like, oh, your wallet or it's BSV. You can just buy any asset you want and then trade it to BSV. Yeah, that doesn't really work the same.
Right. Is there any? Does anybody have any insight on what float is going to do, because since they're basically, a white labeled OKX exchange.
Well, they still have. That's what I was saying. They still have a way to deliver BSV to people through float. Mm-hmm. It's just not the standard way. Like if you're a B2B partner of theirs, he has some rails set up to still make that easy and get you, like we were doing zero conf through float, and he reached out to us a couple weeks ago and gave us another way to still have zero conf exchanges through them. It's just you have to use some other chains and around it.
I mean, I'll just say this. I wouldn't bet against Jack in this sector. He knows what he's doing.
I should just put this out there before we go on too far. I don't have anything against as an application like Handcash. It's just the seed thing that I'm really not fond of. But like I enjoy using it for just like person to person things. I brought that up because we were talking about wallets on a larger scale and kind of what they're doing. But full disclosure for the people that are listening, I do enjoy using Handcash.
You're still a customer.
UX. I'm still a customer. It has great UX. Yeah. I'm excited to see how it integrates with all the other applications and whatnot. But yeah, figured I'd throw that out there because I had someone not message me about that, just messaged me saying they were listening to this. So people that are listening.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have the same sort of pain point. They're like, this is great. Why can't I still use my seed? Like, I think a lot of people, I mean, at least people I know, but maybe it's, again, different aims. Maybe they're not looking for Bitcoiners. Maybe they're looking for the everyday people, right? Who don't care, don't want to have the responsibility of managing a seed.
I would say that's true.
And it all ties into the user experience we're going after.
Oh, shit. Oh, I didn't know there was anyone from Handcash on here. Oh, cool. All right, Brian. So thank you. Thanks for like answering the one question earlier, because like obviously if the app's gone, like that's still a concern of mine. But you put my one concern to ease with my what if I lose my phone that my Handcash is on. So thank you.
The web wallet should be out soon, and you'll see it. It's really easy, and it's easy to authenticate. So when you authenticate with your email, you're authenticating with the trust holder, and then your phone number, you're authenticated with Handcash.
Phil needs to super glue a tile.
I'm not
to his
someone
phones.
who. I do, yeah. I'm really bad with my phone. I'm not one who's against like the email, tie or using an email to create salts and stuff like that. Like a lot of people will be like, oh, why do they have to have my email? But like you can go on Proton Mail and create a new email for free. Like, there's no like personal information that's tied to that. So yeah.
I had a question for Dave with Crypto Fights.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so and just forgive the ignorance, but is what you're making something that like if I made a racing game, I can like hook into, or is it like a framework I can add on to my product?
So both, but real-time gaming is. We are not to the point yet of processing transactions fast enough to be able to get into sort of real-time gaming. You can get pretty quick turn-based gaming, and there's certainly different methodologies that can be come up with to have a trusted timekeeper, essentially, that's signing transactions and is an intermediary. And with payment channels, there's lots of things you can do, but validation is still a little costly of a step. So we've talked with different kind of game concepts of you can have different levels of authority where if a game publisher really just wants to have people commit to the state of their things on chain and then have a referee agent or bot, basically, that's watching things and committing signatures of completion. You can do things like that. So ideally, yeah, everything will be able to intermix. So like with how CryptoFights is set up, we run some of these validator bots that the players interact with. And the validator bot is in charge of keeping secrets of a seed for a hash chain, which is how we introduce randomness, a proven randomness. And then also for judging whether a player is taking too much time to take their turn or not. So those are things where we have a bot that's interacting with the players that is really just signing. It's providing randomness that's provable, and it's signing the time that something happened. So you can build games that interact in all sorts of different ways with different levels of autonomy and trust of just, okay, this is player to player, or having judges that work in there. There was somewhere else I was going with that. I don't remember.
It'll come back to you.
That's okay. That was a good answer.
Real time would be cool though. You know, you can imagine like a battle royale where you put some money in to join the round, and then the winners get that money. That'd be
that's
really
some
fun.
of the new stuff that I'm really looking forward. Like, there's been enough infrastructure work in getting kind of things set in place so that next I can focus on that stuff, and I'm really excited to be able to do that.
Yeah, I've been like really excited to see everything come out since you gave the presentation and kind of gave us the in-depth in was it February or March?
Yeah.
The ability to like upgrade individual weapons, or the possibility of a crowd essentially being able to alter the state of the outcome by, where they apply their proof of work, you could say, is, I think, a really interesting way to implement a lot of this Bitcoin stuff that sometimes gets looked at as too technical or only for a certain in a usable, like fun, quote unquote, like way for people to interact.
Well, and how we're building stuff, and what's really neat, at least, I mean, I'm sure you can do it at a layer one level, it's just a lot more complex, but using Run, the interoperability is such that, like, so we've got these validators that we run, and they recognize whatever rules they want to recognize, but all the code is completely out there, and our business model is not at all tied to intellectual property on the code. That code is open in such a way that people can use our fighters, our weapons, and our game mechanic, and just run their own agent that also trusts weapons that come from this other source, or bonuses that come from this other game. Or so you can it really becomes very open source, but not like, this is stored on GitHub, but on this is actually out there and living, and people can interact with it in different ways if they want.
Yeah, it's like an open ecosystem.
It sounds like a great way to market Twitch, where I could like give you skins or badges on Twitch, and then you apply them to your characters in Chronoverse.
I'm still waiting for my Twitch hat, bruh.
Twitch hat. I'm wearing mine right now.
You guys have hats?
We had 13. We made 13 hats.
So you guys are the hat game now too.
I think we're going to enter the hat game real big this year.
Interesting. Excellent. Better look out.
I think all
Dragon's Den.
I got to pay for my ramen,
Well,
all these brands should be merchandising. Any of these brands that miss an opportunity to merchandise is short-sighted, in my opinion.
I think you're right. Handcash has
Mr. Moneybags over here with all their merchandise capital.
I buy merch. I'm such a sucker for merch. I buy everyone's merch. Like if Handcash, if you drop me a link like to your site, to a shop after this, I would end up buying something. Like, I'm pretty bad about it. My closet is a graveyard of tokens and crypto company merchandise.
Dead company graveyard.
I have some really like embarrassing shirts. Yeah,
It's on there. It's just go to here.
Crypto
It's on the
kitties.
front page, bro.
I don't have any kitty ones now.
Do you have a fun fair shirt?
I have an orange logoed Bitcoin Cash shirt. I've been to their website, bruh. I meant like if they had just like a dedicated merch store.
They do.
Oh, they do. It's not all.
Page.
It's not all through ZeroConf anymore.
Oh, and still ZeroConf. I guess I didn't look too deep.
I might have this already. If it's just the basic green one, I have that.
yeah, it's through ZeroConf.
Oh, I have that one.
Nice.
You guys need to keep issuing more merch, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get on that.
It might end up being the most profitable venture that any crypto company goes into.
Well, that's the main way we're monetizing right now.
That's what Kanye West does. He sells shoes.
There, see? It doesn't even have to be fashion. You know, maybe I want a drink out of a Twetch cup. Maybe I want to roll down the street on a hand cash skateboard. You know, that's all.
Again, money bags with all the capital for merchandise over here buying skate decks.
I do it more just to support like the people that are behind it, right? Like my a guy we know named Jonathan. He's got his own clothing thing. Like, it doesn't even matter if I like it. I'll still buy something from it just to like throw some money at my friends and support what they're doing. I do like all his stuff, but just as an example, I could not really care for it. I may just buy it just to wear and sleep in. But yeah, I think like merch is a good way, Mike. To any company with a product should put out some. You'll have your fan base that are going to purchase it.
Right, and it gets a conversation started. Who is XYZ? And then you get to talk about it. That's just my thinking, though. What haven't we addressed today, gentlemen?
Do we want to talk about the price?
Well, the price is fantastic.
If you're a buyer,
you guys aren't stacking BSV sats every day.
I lost the only BSV I'm stacking.
Get on
is from the apps I'm using. I lost my BSV a few months back in a boating accident. I tweeted about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why you're not using Twitch anymore, Phil?
I wasn't using Twitch for a while because my account between each other. So like I was trying to post from like one of the company accounts, and it would post from my main account and vice versa. It's actually fixed now. I just like it's a holiday time.
You got a dedicated device to each one of the accounts. That's the deal.
No, to be honest, like after you added, I'm trying to think, whatever that third wallet was, and everything was like you had the additional authentication when you log in on the website, it fixed it.
Cool. Brandon, is it true that Handcash might support multiple like accounts?
Oh yeah, it does. As in,
like if I wanted to switch my Twitch accounts real quick, I could just like change my Handcash and then connect and then different.
You can log out in the app right now.
Oh,
you
have to log out.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
I mean,
still not bad. Still convenient because, like, just like I was just telling him, it could be convenient for me because I have like my account, and then I have one of the companies I work with, another like app that I have, and like all of their accounts. So when I'm switching between them on desktop using Money Button, it's a pain in the ass because you have to log out of Twitch, then log out of Money Button, then log back into Money Button, then log back into Twitch, re-authenticate through Twitch.
Well, so, I mean, I'll put it this way: there's no reason why we couldn't. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'll maybe.
That's something we're considering in Twitch too. Like on Twitter, you can have as many accounts logged in as you want, and switch between them real quick. That'd be cool.
Right. Well, actually, yeah. With Connect, so you could just store the access token for multiple users.
100%.
Yeah. So yeah, you could do that.
Do it. Be my new wallet.
So you need to. The user has to authorize and do that log out. But once they're authorized, then it should be easy to switch accounts.
Interesting. Yeah, so you wouldn't have to log out of Twitch. You could just like add another.
Right. You store the access token with the user. You store that, and then log out of Handcash and do the same thing.
Well, Phil, if you find that BSV from your boating accident, you should jump on Twitch. We miss you over there.
I'm still in DM, man. I just don't post a lot.
Same.
You definitely have like one of the better main games.
Is there an app? Because just speaking about because Twitch DM is probably like my biggest. Even though I'm not really in there that much, but the DMs on Twitch is probably my favorite innovation of the year. Does anybody know of a way of getting Twitter DMs without having to go on Twitter? Is that like impossible?
That's
never
questionable.
looked
I
into
haven't played with it.
I think their API covers it.
Yeah, I would assume you can do that through their API. I haven't looked at it, but now that you raised the question, I might.
Yeah, I think we need to make a Twitter app that is just the DMs.
Well, I mean, you got to figure
Twitch
like
Messenger.
there were third-party third-party Twitter clients, that you would be able to access your accounts through. So I would assume, you can get direct messages through there too. It's not something that was ever useful to me. Oh, but you know what? Yeah, for sure you can, because you can ping accounts with a direct message. Yeah, you definitely can. No doubt about it.
I figured you might know the answer to that.
Yeah.
And
I forget
who in here. I forget who in here is the professor of Bitcoin.
That's me. Actually.
Nice. So I just had a question. Generally speaking, what's that like? Is that like part of the comp sci curriculum where you are? Like, what do you? What do you do up there?
Before this year, so I was teaching in the spring. I was working towards getting it into the computer science department. So it's my alma mater, and I graduated from the computer science department. And so this class specifically is just in the business school. So it's quite limited on what I can do. But, my idea was just to, get in there and kind of work my way to the computer science department from that.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'm going to start this month, and, it's crazy how it's changed every year. I think this is the third year I'm doing it. So
is it more like the legal regulational type of stuff that just because it's like the business school?
Yeah. I assign them. It's only a 2-credit course.
Sure.
So it's half a semester. So I assign them projects that kind of lead that route, or just kind of a comparison on the different chains and whatnot. But we'll see with COVID. I'm less excited this year to do it than any other.
I wonder if it will be much more popular though with the it's coming back, and the price of BTC. It's a little more popular.
I think you're on the big class. Yeah.
Yeah, every year it's gotten bigger. I will say that, and it's interesting. It's a mixed bag. A lot of people they're interested in it, but it's tricky to find.
Aren't you out in like New Hampshire or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe they should be knocking down the door out there. They're nuts.
Right? So Bruce Fenton, I don't know if you guys know him. He lives down the road from me. And he has a lot of Bitcoin conferences. Bruce. Yeah, he's a really cool guy. I've had him come in and talk a few times. We want to create this sense of a crypto community in New Hampshire. And we have any pays down the road for me, so we have a lot of businesses in my area that take it. So it's cool. All the students can get hands-on experience using it in the real world. But yeah, it's definitely a work in progress, finding the right note to hit with, business students learning about Bitcoin for the first time.
Have you been to Bruce's, I don't know what to call it, his Bitcoin?
He bought this huge farm with like an acre or two with like a mile of lakeside view. But he keeps it open to the public, believe it or not. So I go there like once a month or so and run around with my dog.
Oh wow! Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, he's cool. I've talked to him about hand cash, and he's very heavily a BTC guy. But he's making progress with Watchdog Capital. He's a licensed broker dealer now, and he's really focused on security tokens, which it's taking a lot longer than I thought to become a thing. But I'm really convinced, like, when these security tokens, find the right footing, that's going to be a huge boom. It's going to be way bigger than the 2017 boom. It's going to be,
once you see it come to Bitcoin, I think it will, because like you're starting to see these synthetic assets come to.
Yeah, I don't think it's a scaling thing. I think
not a scaling thing whatsoever.
It's a regulatory thing.
Yeah.
The legal takes way longer.
Yeah, I don't mean because of like lack of scaling. I just mean that like you're seeing popularity for them already start to rise on other chains who are offering synthetic versions of it,
right?
And pseudo securities and commodities. That it's just the path we're going. We'll see a big boom in that.
I think that's kind of where Fabric is probably thinking. It seems like they're going after exchanges as their first customers. With like wrapping BTC and all that. So it seems like that's a natural transition to, being a security token kind of company. But that's just a guess.
Yeah, Raven's all about that, his project. Right. And what makes him, we talked earlier just about like how UX plays a part, and that's kind of what's given them their footing outside of being their own chain over things like Polymath. Polymath, to launch an STO is very cumbersome. You have to go through a KYC process and be approved before you can even like enter the secondary UI. And with Raven, you just download a wallet and you launch an STO.
Right.
It's really, really simple and easy to use. And I remember like when that first launched, I think me, Yeezy, like quite a few people just did for fun, just launched STOs on there.
He mined the Genesis block.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think I was at the conference where he launched it, and I don't think I ever bought it. I'm kicking myself for that.
There was something I saw like a week ago, a new platform, and they moved outside of just like the typical synthesized commodities. Like we've seen all the fiats and like gold and stuff like that, but they're doing like Microsoft, Tesla, and have moved into stocks. Yeah. I don't remember what the protocol was called, but it's a newer one that came out just a little bit ago.
Right.
And we'll see a lot more of that, I think, and that'll be kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, he's really going after the dexes and that type of thing, which I think is really cool. It'd be nice to have some of that in BSV. Some of those people thinking that way, but we'll see.
Hey guys, I gotta jump off. I got dinner with my family.
Hey, no
but
sweat. What's for dinner?
It's been great chatting with y'all. I'm not quite sure yet.
Well, that's all right. But enjoy
Whatever
it. Thanks for
my dad's
coming
cooking
on.
up. Yeah.
Glad to have you. Hopefully,
All
we'll
right.
get you back on in the future.
Totally.
Enjoy your dinner, man.
Be good. So, what else? What are any other topics or points that we feel we should address? We'll keep it rolling for a little bit longer if we get good conversation.
I mean,
questions.
Yeah, I have one question. What do you guys think about, we've talked a little bit about wallets, payment side. And I know someone mentioned Relay is starting to make headway on the, being a wallet for your data too. On Ethereum, probably the go-to wallet is MetaMask. And this is all sorts of problems, but it is a wallet for, arbitrary data and tokens that you have on Ethereum. So what do you think this is going to look like on BSV, say, in a year from now? Or what should it look like in a year from now? Anyone have any thoughts on that?
I think we'll have something very similar to what that is. I don't like MetaMask necessarily, but it fills its use very well. It's very easy to use. It is implemented in a way to where any site that has Web3 connection, it can auto connect, not auto connect, but auto populate for you to sign for it to connect, to make it seem like a single flow to get into an application. All of your data is there. If it's not there, you can import it and see it. Like, it has all the functionality of things that people need, and I think Jack is starting to lay kind of the groundway for that with having a place for people to swap wrap tokens. I know it's maybe not as much in this group here, but it's contentious in BSV, like the whole token idea and how they're going to be used. But the fact remains that people want them. Like the users themselves, that's what they're interested in. They want tokens. So to have a place where there's rails for that, and then have a wallet that eventually supports all of that, and maybe that is Relay, maybe another wallet comes around that's able to implement that, but something where you have a single access point.
Metalink.
Yeah, Metalink may be that. Yeah. But to where you can connect all of your applications, you can sign. It does sound just like Metalink. You can sign your approval, and it's not cumbersome. Is exactly what is needed. Like MetaMask, for all their faults, they have done it right for usability.
So I think a big thing there is going to have, and I don't know what Metalink is that you guys just mentioned, so maybe I want to hear more, but I think coming to some sort of at least metadata standards, because you're going to have, at this point still, there's so many different token standards, and you look at Run and what Run can do, which is also allows for very, very complex sets of tokens that are owned. Yeah. But having some way that you can universally display the metadata about what that is, such that in some way, I mean, obviously you've got trust issues, you've got all sorts of issues on that.
Totally. Even MetaMask doesn't do it right. They don't. Well, I'm sorry. Even not MetaMask, but even EtherScan, right? The most widely used Explorer doesn't do it right. You can't see 1155s on EtherScan, and I don't think you can see 721s on EtherScan. You can only see ERC20s. So there's 2/3 of the tokens standards that are popular and being used, you can't even view on the most widely used Explorer. And you can't view them in your wallet on MetaMask unless you're on.
Everybody from Handcash left, right?
One of the more advanced features in MetaMask that is kind of handy is the ability for you to essentially sign an arbitrary message with your keys. And that's something where there's actually a meta language that you describe what the field types are.
Yeah.
And so it at least shows the user some concept of here is what you are about to sign before you sign it. And I think that there probably will be some interesting use cases that need to be built around there as well.
Yeah, I have like a lot of thoughts on this. So I'm just going to be like a little bit blunt and brutal if that's okay. But basically, the reason...
Preferred.
Sure. I mean, the reason why, like wallets in BSV, like they all suck compared to like Ethereum, EOS, Tron, whatever, right? Like all those other wallets can do a lot more than what our wallets can do. And the reason is because on those chains, they're account-based systems. And so they're not maintaining any kind of state. They're not indexing UTXOs or doing anything crazy like that. All they're doing is functioning as a keychain, right?
Yeah.
BSV wallets have to index UTXOs, which, could be an arbitrary script that they have to somehow know how to unlock, right? And then they have to index all sorts of different types of state. Like if you're doing an op return based thing, like run or something, for example, right? Sure, like you can go and implement the run library, but then what about, if someone goes and makes another run? What if there are 10 runs? Does every wallet have to implement 10 of these libraries, right? Like, so you look at UTP got implemented on Vault, but it didn't like achieve any widespread adoption, and so none of the tokens can talk to each other, right? And it's because the amount of work required for a wallet to actually like integrate these things is like non-trivial. They have to be able to index things. They need to know how to unlock them. And then they have to know which key to sign with, and then they have to sign, and then they have to broadcast it, and then the people at the other end have to like do the whole process all over again.
And they usually have to run their own node.
And you have to trust that what you're signing is actually what you're telling, what the user thinks.
Exactly. Right. And or let's all just use some giant API in the cloud and just completely trust, and like those two things are not good. So like what you really want to do is make it so that wallets can function as just keychains, but they can be HD keychains. You want to tell people this is the key that we're signing with, and you can verify by this target that you provided me, so you know that I'm not giving you some random script and trying to trick you. You need to make it that every time someone makes a token or a token standard or whatever, the onus is on the token provider to be compatible with every other wallet, not for every other wallet to implement the token standard. And see, no wallet has actually come out and made that possible, because none of them can actually unlock arbitrary transactions. Like they're still all only able to spend P2PKH, with the exception of Vault supporting UTP and Relay supporting Run, right? But no other wallets are talking to each other. So like that's just like straight up not going to work. So the problem you need to solve is not let's define how we do it and there's one approach and everyone do this, right? You actually need to have the approach of creating a protocol that can encapsulate any kind of arbitrary transaction data or app or token or whatever, right? And on Ethereum, they have this. It's called ABI, right? And that's what needs to happen. We need to use ABI. We need to have the ability to index only what we care about. So let's just give an example of a paymail to paymail transaction here, right? If I were to send you a token, right? If it's relay to relay and we're sending a run token, fine, right? Because the sender and receiver both support run. They've got that implemented. If I want to send it to Handcash, I can't, right? Like just straight up, not yet, maybe someday. But like,
not yet.
Not yet.
Well, I will say, I think this is a good point. What you mentioned about pay, paymails for BSV has been solved, but like once you start entering token land, you need to make sure the receiver can actually display that token. And I think what you said about ABIs and really everything you just said was dead on correct. I would love to see this is one of those places I think where a lot of people can come together. I would love to see some sort of open source project that can. I know UTP was an attempt at that, something like UTP. Maybe there needs to be meta link. I'm very open to this. I would love to see something that allows us to come together and do something where it makes it easier for wallets to start integrating all these different standards.
Can you post a link for what MetaLink is?
bsvabi.org.
Yeah, dump it in the chat.
Like, this has not been updated since. This has not been updated for. This has not been updated for post Genesis. It's actually gotten a lot more sophisticated. So, like, I have a method. I have a method for basically doing this that no one else has sort of figured out yet. But I'll be open sourcing some stuff soon to make it possible, so that basically, basically wallets only have to sign inputs ever, and it's safe. So that's the equivalent of Ethereum, right? You don't actually sign the inputs and outputs of a transaction. You sign the inputs. A smart contract determines what the outputs are, and you trust that smart contract will execute it according to some program or some evidence of a program that it's given you. And you have some kind of function that you can call in the API schema. It's like, this is what you give me, and this is what I'll do, and you trust it, right? And in Ethereum, it's actually slightly better than something like, EOS or whatever, where, or like some of these like updatable, like when you have a public blockchain with smart contracting, and it's like the contract is updatable, they could just totally, like, as they like to say nowadays in the DeFi world, rug you. But even Ethereum, they rug you. Like, wow. How many rugs you seen? How many rugs you seen, bro? Like,
it's all one big rug.
Yeah, I mean, like I see a new rug every day. That's that's the lay of the land in the DeFi world.
Right.
Rugs on rugs on rugs. Because what they do is they'll leave a function that's like, if it's not a min function, it may be some other kind, to where it's still controlled by an owner, and the owner is like an EOA. So and they may hide it behind a proxy, so that someone, so that to the person who isn't as privy to like how a contract works, that everything looks good. They don't see any min function. They don't see that that the address that launched the contract has any control.
Right.
But then when you really look and see, like, you may find that only the owner address can sell, or or that the owner just has to approve the sell. Or yeah, that's me. King of the rugs, the finest of Persian theory and rugs.
But like, this is how it works on Ethereum, right? All you're signing is the inputs. So your wallet is just a keychain, and it just signs inputs, and smart contracts handle the outputs. And you trust. You actually trust, despite what everyone says. You trust. It's not actually like trustless or decentralized. Like, it's decentralized in the sense that there's a set of rules, and you can execute bytecode in the computer, and no one can stop you.
The only way to implement it and it be quote unquote trustless is for them to well, not only that, but they can burn they can burn their ownership rights, essentially.
Prove it.
Or they can make it so that the contract address.
Prove it.
They can revoke ownership and apply it to like the contract or something. So then they can't control it. And now only it's controlled by the contract, and nobody controls the contract because those keys were burned. And you can do that with there's provable ways to do that on chain, where you can burn ownership.
But you get what I'm saying. Like, this actually works.
But again,
this actually works.
Exactly. We go back to
multi-sig, for example. And that's just how it is. None of these things are actually trustless or decentralized.
Most of the ones that are being widely used, they're not trustless because the main decisions are being controlled by a multi-sig, and they let the community vote on what transactions the multi-sig is going to push through.
Yep. So we can do
even
this.
That doesn't mean anything, because the Urine dev, he laughs about it, and he says oh, I thought, people ask him I thought that was up to the DAO, and he's like, everyone knows that the DAO just means that it's the developer's decision.
It's exactly the case though. It's exactly how that's exactly how all these things work. Now, clearly, all these things have created some kind of economic value to the point that people are going to pay hundreds of dollars in transaction fees because they see like hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential upside or whatever, right? Say what you want about Ethereum, say what you want about shitcoins. This is economic activity that's not being captured. And it's because we don't have the ability to provide parity. And I've got a technique to provide parity, but it requires a few things. One being SPV nodes, another being API, another being wallet servers. And then, you know, quite frankly, I don't think we actually need wallets. I just think we need like web3.js, like the equivalent of that. And it can wrap every other standard. And then you don't really care. Like, you don't need a wallet. Like, your wallet is literally a like index.html plus web3.js. Like, that's your wallet, you know? And you can inject that into whatever. So that's what really needs to happen. I don't think anyone in BSV.
That's all most of these sites are now.
Like, people.
Most of these sites, that's all they are. They're just like
right.
some HTML Web3, or there's some React in Web3, right. And like there's your wallet on their site.
Exactly. Yeah. The less sophistication, the more bullish, apparently.
Absolutely.
If the SSL certificate's invalid.
Oh, you know, Dean. Yeah. No SSL, no audited contract. No. Extremely bullish. No. That's my rug.
I want all the yams. Give me all the yams.
Give me all the yams.
I want all your mythical vegetables.
Future of finance, baby.
So, on the note of kind of these coming up with having a Web3 for BSV, and also tying into some of the other complexities of wallets we've talked about earlier, has anyone got a good way that they are interpreting script other than submitting them? Like, I cannot get the BSV JavaScript library script interpreter to work. Is there things that other people are using to actually interpret script?
I just use script and I test in prod and just get it right all the time. Like, literally that's my strategy.
Well, I'm actually looking like be able to pre-verify transactions.
Right. Oh, dude. Yeah, that's a huge thing.
Scripts.
Yeah, that's huge. Well, script did a fork of BSV 1.4 or something, like the version 1 library, which has some interpreter stuff in it. Yeah, I mean, I just use script like for debugging scripts, and then when I know a certain template is cool, like I run with it. But they released some stuff on GitHub that you can use. I know you've also forked yourself the BSV library, so
yeah. But I pretty much made simple cosmetic changes. So.
I look at your GitHub. I'm on to you. But yeah, that's actually one of the items for like BSV2. Like, if you go to BSV2 now, we need to upgrade the interpreter. So like, you know, I think there was like 10 items on the list. I think I knocked off like 2 or 3. So, you know, that can be your gauntlet. I don't know.
Perhaps.
One thing I will comment though, like, just while we're not too far and like the economic activity, quote unquote, on ETH, it's all pasta. It's all Ponzi's, you know. Absolutely. Like, it's just that people like that, and like you said, Dean, people see an opportunity to make money right now, and like any way that someone can put halted, stale money to work, they're gonna do. And just like, you know, with the wallets, if you give someone a way to stake their money and earn some other shitcoin for doing it, they're gonna do it.
But dude,
these projects make it really easy.
What is the Fed and what is like quantitative easing?
For sure.
Bro,
I mean,
you call this stuff a scam.
Listen.
Look at our actual financial system.
I'm not saying
which one is more legitimate.
I'm not
making better financial systems.
I'm literally not trying to say that that it's a scam in a way that like I don't participate. I mean, I'm like a king shitcoiner. I'm balls deep in all of that shit.
I don't touch it, but anyone is like, I'm too pure to touch that because it's a scam. It's like, why don't you just dump your USD,
like,
bro?
Do you want to be right?
It's a scam.
Do you want to be right, or do you want to make money? Like,
yes.
Like I know that Bitcoin is right, but like is my stale money that's making me like 3-4% every once in a while when it moves what I want, or do I want to take the chance of getting in on one of these finely woven Persian rugs and maybe 1,000xing? I'll take my chance on the Persian rug. How did you buy that house? You won't believe it, but I just bought in this unaudited contract for 30 days. Okay.
It's funny because it's true. But yeah, like, I mean, it's interesting to see all these people, like, I guess in BSV, who are so like pro establishment and pro law and stuff, and it's like they're calling these things scams. It's like, bro, wait, you're saying an inflationary unbacked asset is a scam? Wait, have you heard of the USD? Right? Oh, these people are like doing all this like illegal trading and stuff, you know, pumping their bags and blah blah blah. Have you heard of quantitative easing? Like, why do you think like Warren Buffett is rich? Like, it's like, dude, like it. And then they're like, oh, we need to do like AML KYC to stop terrorist funding. It's like, bro, terrorists can buy your identity that was leaked from some KYC service on the dark web for like $50. Like, you know, like they don't care. Like these things are just like ridiculous concerns. And it's like, of course, you want to like observe the law insofar as you don't want to like go to jail for, you know, making someone unhappy. But I mean, like,
everything's a mirror. It can be
like
inverted, you know?
It's just a purity test. It's an arbitrary one. And to suggest that like a voluntary financial system is any worse than one full of coercion is obviously bullshit. And yet, you know, here we are.
Have we solved world peace today?
We've built the infrastructure for its.
There we go.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, if the world, you know, anybody has a problem, they just get on crypto fights and they solve it. So
perfect.
Soon.
Well,
Shaw Wars.
Right, yeah, soon.
Shaw Wars, yeah. Shaw Wars, Jesus, you know.
Shaw Wars has a little issue.
Shaw Wars does have.
Yeah,
a little
I gotta
issue.
update it.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna come back around to Shaw Wars in 2021, I think.
Yeah, I took a break because I have a swap gonna come out in like the next couple weeks.
Busy selling rugs.
Yeah, I thought Brad was supposed to be on today, but I didn't see him.
Yeah, I'm gonna link up with Brad. I'm gonna update Shaw Wars back end because I mean, like I had it was scalable and it was working fine, but I wanted originally the idea for Shaw Center was not for it to be called that and not for it to be like PAL Market. I was just going to use Hummingbird and make something like what PAL Market 2 is. But now that Brad's done
all the work for you,
I really just want to like deprecate. Yeah. Like, I mean, that was kind of the end goal, the end vision. So like, and I never wanted to build Shaw Center in the first place. It was just like my own test, like fork that I was using. And I put it up because PAL Market was behind when, like I put up the Twitch clone in like the first like Shaw Wars. And I was just like sending people to like my server endpoint at the time. Like, you know, I just like masked it in HTML to say Shaw Center. And then after like a week, I just like gave it a domain and put it up. But I'll probably just fall back to PAL Market and put that one back private and update Shaw Wars properly. But I put it aside just because like it's fun and I like the idea of it and I you know enjoy like having it up, but it doesn't make a lot of money. You know, it covers the server costs every month, which is fine. So it's profitable.
I was trying to get the guy from Tonic Pow on today too, and I think that like Tonic Pow is one of my favorite products in BSV right now. Obviously, not enough people use it, but I would love to see them deploy banner ads against what they've got. Personally, I know everybody's like anti-advertising, and you know I am to a great degree as well. but at the same time, I think that utilizing Bitcoin for
I'm
advertising.
anti-spammertising, not advertising.
Whatever. You call it whatever you want.
I'm anti get a celebrity to tell me about you.
Yeah, well, yeah, me too. But that's the thing. Like, there's no celebrities here, you know.
Wait, what's a cancer? What's a cancer?
The
Crypto
hot sauce is
influencers.
like yeah, they are.
Hold on. What did you guys say?
Imagine being like, you know what? I don't want to think. I want to listen to this person with like a 90 IQ.
Dean,
Like,
thinking is
What's
tough.
your brand deal? Tell me what your brand deal is today, bro. I need to know your insights. Where do I put my $100 that I got on Coinbase? Like, bro.
Most of them will just tell you BTC.
I get them all from like, excuse me, sir. I run a successful YouTube channel. Community members, we'd like to do a video on your project. I'm like, oh yeah, what project? Oh, stops there.
Yeah, no, all these people who like are following these influencers and like treating them as though like, you know, they did something useful because they said like, buy this coin, it has a 50% chance of going up. Like
50% chance.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
Listen,
it will either go up or down. If it goes down, it's like this is a great chance to accumulate. If it goes up, never sell. It's
the
like,
only Ponzi's I'm getting involved in are ones that that have already fallen like 80%, and people are like, it's definitely going to zero. Like, okay, this is how I win. I will simply buy things you do not understand, and I will sell them at a higher price to you when you do understand.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to end the live stream, but we don't have to leave. Nobody has to leave the room. Obviously, as soon as we end the stream, that's when the real conversation begins.
In the live stream before we start like
party chat,
admitting the crimes
after hours.
Do you guys ever buy a new motherboard only for it not to work when you get home?
Ooh.
God, that fucking sucks.
That's actually happened to me once.
Anyway, my name is Michael Finney. We're going to sign off for Partyline Chat. We will see you again, hopefully next month. Do you guys want to say goodbye to the folks that are left, or just in general to each other on this stream? Be my guest.
Bye. I just want to say it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed having an intellectual chat about Bitcoin stuff. It's been a long time.
it has been good.
It has been a long time.
Yeah, always fun. Thanks for having me, Mike.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Fantastic group. Some people are calling this the next Cambrian. I don't know who those people are, but some are. Thank you for joining us today. We